Okay, my name's CJ, and my hometown is in Singapore. I don't sound like a Singaporean anymore because I've been in China for the past 9.5 years. So if I have kind of a mixture between an English and American accent in China, don't ask me how I got it here in China. That's how I got it. So part of what we do is things like corporate training. We do sales training for companies. We do leadership training for companies, and we do some of the outdoor team building activities where we get people to shoot one another, climb mountains, cross rivers, and suffer. The more the suffering, the better the rating usually we get. So these are some of the things that we do as a living. Now, why are we in this topic in the first place? Well, it just so happens that a number of years ago, I think it was in 2005, 2006, that I got the opportunity to train for eBay University. Not for the eBay staff, but for the eBay sellers. I mean, the people who actually set up shops in eBay. So, and that was a really interesting time because there was a time when eBay was at the top and it had a dramatic drop to the bottom. So we shall see some of the things here. Sad story of eBay in China. Now, some of you may know about some background of the story here. In 2002, eBay Inc. injected $118 million USD. By the way, this is $202. Right now, the RMB rate towards to USD is 6.26. Right. In 2002, what was the exchange rate? 8. It's 1 to 8. Okay, so that's $202, $180 million US injected to purchase 100% of each net. By the way, I got to check my facts because the legal counsel of eBay is here. So I'm going to make sure that I stick to the facts, or else I'll be sued. Alright, so that's what happened. Fact number 2. Basically, when eBay bought EachNet was the e-commerce company set up by a Shanghainese who was a Harvard graduate, very smart guy, mathematician, set up EachNet, and was probably one of the first, if not the first, e-commerce or B2C, C2C type, business to consumer type of e-commerce platform in China. One of the first, if not first. It had 80% of the business to consumer e-commerce market in China. So when eBay injected $180 million US to buy EachNet, they're actually effectively buying 80% of China, right, in the e-commerce sphere. Now, is that a good deal now? You spend $180 million, which is a lot of money, but what you get in return is a company that already had 80% of a growing market and a growing big market. Is that a good deal? Yes, no? Yes, it's a good deal. It's great. It's a great deal. It's a good buy. But what happened is that by 2005, the market share shrunk to 36% in 3 years. Right, 2002, it's 80%. 2005 is shrunk to 36%. And by the way, all of these facts can be checked on Google, can be checked on Wikipedia. So just make sure that the legal guys, save the legal guys some trouble. It's all fact checked with a lot of sources. So by 2005, market share shrunk to 36%. Now I'm gonna have a quiz here. What do you think happened between the 3 years? What do you think happened in the market? 2002. eBay entered Chinese market. It had 80% of market share. 3 years later, it became 36%. Now, without looking at internal issues, what do you think are some of the external factors that cause such a decline in market share? What do you think happened? Taobao, yes, okay, right. So, how many of us bought something from eBay recently? eBay. How many of us bought something from Taobao recently? Well, there you go. right? So that's the competition came, and market share dropped, and right now, no one's actually buying from eBay right now, and most of us, if we're talking about e-commerce in China, we're talking about Taobao. And by the way, how many of you have got one of these or an advanced versions of these? Yeah, I got this from Taobao as well. More on that. So these are some of the things that happen. Now, some of the things are what we can see, what we can search online. These are some of the stories. The market share dropped. The company did not have a response to it. In 2005, what eBay tried to do is to try to merge with Tom.com and reset up eachnet again. And what happened is they tried to sell eBay China's shares to Tom.com. Now, usually, if you want to sell something, you get money in return, right? That's how you sell something. You sell something, someone pays you. When eBay tried to sell its shares, eBay China shares to Tom.com, it actually paid Tom.com something like $14 million US to buy eBay China shares. It's how bad it is. Okay. And this again, I'll fact checked. So today, eBay is like a pale shadow of itself in China. There is probably an R&D center in China, but in terms of e-commerce, it's nowhere else. In 2005, because I was doing training for the eBay sellers, what happened in 2005 was some of the sellers are thinking that, especially sellers in South China, where they're more flexible, they're mobile, they're nimble, they're thinking that, hey, eBay is not just China, eBay is international. eBay, if we use a platform, we can sell from China to Australia, to the US, to Europe. So some of these sellers wanted to use eBay for that. But in 2005, what happened to eBay was, it is not allowed to have a China eBay seller's ID to sell overseas. Right, that was in 2005. It is now allowed, it's now encouraged, but back then it wasn't. Two, Southern China being Southern China, these are sellers who are very flexible. If I couldn't use my China ID to sell overseas, guess what? I register an overseas ID, right? I go to US, I go to Australia, I go to Singapore, Hong Kong, and I register an overseas ID, and then I can have two IDs and sell around the world. Some of them did that. But if they were found out by eBay for doing that, both their IDs will be revoked. Okay, so that was how bad it is. There were a lot of feedback from eBay sellers on the state of events. A lot of the sellers gradually moved towards the Taobao platform. Part of the things, if you think back then, was eBay started to charge sellers. Taobao being the upstart, say you can come in for free. So Mac Whitmore, the then CEO for eBay, was saying that free is not a business model, without thinking that you now have an upstart who is competing against you, who is stealing away a lot of your sellers. And the reason they're defecting away from you is that Taobao is being more flexible. Was going to give things for free if you're doing a basic package, was going to adapt to different business environments. Now, for those of us who come from a foreign country, how many of us has used eBay outside of China before? Right. If you have used eBay outside of China, you know that eBay is not really an e-commerce site. eBay started as an auction site, which means if you have some old computers, some old iPhones that you want to get rid of, you don't just want to give away, you want to see if someone wants to buy a second item, you put online, have an auction, and then sell away. So that was how eBay started. Taobao more or less started that way as well, as an auction site. But after some time, most of the sellers on Taobao, in fact, most of the sellers in eBay in 2005 were not individuals. Most of them are small business owners. They don't use the auction function. They use the what is now known as the 议价, the buy price, rather than the auction feature on the platforms and sell items. So Taobao was quicker in adapting the business model to shop owners rather than to individuals. eBay was left stranded, didn't do anything. Right? And the stories go on and on. There are many reasons why eBay was caught flat-footed. There are a lot of things that happened between 2002 and 2005, and even after 2005. At 2005, they still have 36% of the market, and it's not a lot compared to 2002. But if they really want to turn things around, they may actually maintain that 36%. If they still maintain 36% today, it's still quite a sizable market. It is, right? The thing is that there's a lot of things that could have been done, could have been changed. Nothing was changed. Right? We'll go to some of the reasons why that happened. Right? The moral story is that a lot of things that could have been changed wasn't changed. Now, eBay and PayPal. Oops. Yeah, okay, yeah. 2002, same year, in October, eBay acquired PayPal. PayPal entered the Chinese market to facilitate online payments. Anyone use PayPal before? Credit card payments? Yeah, especially if you're overseas, use a lot of PayPal. Now, and as a result, PayPal entered China as well. 2004, PayPal had a 2-year start in China. Right? When eBay entered in China in 2002, Taobao was set up in 2002, the same year. So there wasn't much of a head time or lead time. But for PayPal had a 2-year lead time. 2004, Alibaba started Alipay to facilitate online payments. And if we were to look at online payments, it's a bit small. And what we can do is, if you want to have a copy of slides, what I can do is if you can send me your name cards or pass me your emails, I can actually convert the slides into PDF and email to you. Right? So you don't have to strain your eyes and look at the small figures. So basically, this is the market share of China's third-party online payment today. Alipay today is the top one, the top guy, at close to 47% of the market share in online payment process. In the past, when PayPal started in China, when Alipay started in China, there were a lot of strict constraints. You cannot process foreign credit cards, either for eBay, for PayPal China, or for Alipay. That was passed. Now, Alipay can process international credit cards. To the extent, when I went back to Singapore for vacation, and then log online, I want to buy something from Taobao. The system recognizes that I'm logging on from Singapore. The IP shows Singapore. Immediately, it comes out with an ad saying that if I were to spend 1,000 RMB using my Singapore credit card, I get a 100 RMB voucher. Right, so it's very aggressive these days. So they're very strong. They're now capturing 47% of the market. PayPal is a great product, it's a great platform. PayPal China was great. Unfortunately, because it partnered with eBay more than anything else, when eBay went down, so did PayPal. So when eBay went down to 36% in 2005, you have very limited applications from PayPal. In the early days of Taobao, before Alipay only came out in 2004, which means from 2002 to 2004, if you were to buy from Taobao, there were only a few choices. Number one, you have to go to the bank and do your own bank transfer to the merchant, which is risky. Because you never know if you transfer money, will you get the products or will you get the right products? That's one way. Second way is the merchant sends something to you and you pay cash to the courier, which is not as risky but troublesome for both the merchant and for the buyer as well. You never know if your money will get lost by the courier, right? So those were the problems that Taobao actually faced from 2002 to 2004 before Alipay was set up. Now, when Alipay set up, it's a system whereby if you want to buy something online, you place your money with Alipay. It's an escrow system. They hold your money. When you receive your products, and if you think that it's the right shape, size, quality, color, whatever it is, it's exactly what you want, and you confirm your purchase, then only Alipay release a payment. So it's that escrow system. It's all similar to what PayPal is doing for eBay internationally as well. So, and this is where Alipay it is today. So what I'm getting at is this: eBay had a good start in 2002. eBay spent a lot of money, but it bought something that was really worth that money pumped in. But because of some competitors, maybe, but more of mismanagement, it really shot itself out of the market. Right? So it's effectively, yes.
I just want to correct you. I think we need to understand we're doing business in China.
Yes.
China is highly regulated country.
Yes.
So even for Alipay, we do face the situation as well.
Yes.
From eBay perspective, because we are foreign investor, we are not allowed to do, for example, third-party online payment things in China because we're our shareholding structure.
Could be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it's sad, right?
Sure.
But we must understand the most important fact is because actually the law does not allow us to do so.
Right. Thank you for your question. I mean, from eBay. Thank you for the question. I mean, the thing is that a lot of constraints were faced by both eBay and Alibaba as well.
Well, Alibaba, you probably understand that recently there's scanner about Alibaba because people always use structure VIE
Yes.
to do such things, and
Yes.
Alibaba has such arrangement as well. But
Yes.
because of the government's regulations,
Yes.
the doing something,
Yes.
it's kind of breached the contract.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it's never happened in international.
Sure.
reputable contracts.
Again, we're not really looking into whose fault it is. We're looking into what happened here and there, and Alibaba won, Alipay won. They may use some irregular ways to win it. In a way, Alipay is not part of Alibaba now officially. It's now Jack Ma's private business now to facilitate the whole payment. And things like this happen here and there. Again, we're looking into how things unfold more so than any other thing else.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, just remind you about the environment.
Sure. And exactly, what we're looking here is also the mismanagement, and there is also the challenging environment that we face in China. Yeah, so it's not any one particular party. Yeah. Okay, sure. Thank you. Now, from eBay to Best Buy. Best Buy. Before all this happened, Best Buy was kind of king of electronics retail in North America. It actually killed Circuit City, and basically it's king of electronics retailing in North America. And 2006, Best Buy acquired a majority interest in Jiangsu Five-Star Appliance Company, China's fourth largest appliance chain. And to cut a long story short, 2007 it opens its stores in Shanghai, touted as the largest Best Buy in the world back then, right? In Zhongshan Park, right? And by 2011, it closed all of its own brand stores in China. There's no more Best Buy stores in China. Best Buy as a company still exists in China. It still exists as a sourcing company. It sources from China and sells to and bring it to the US. It still exists because the stake in Five-Star we've seen is still in place. So it still exists, but in terms of the retail store, it's gone. And the reason that they gave, or most people think, happened is that Chinese consumers shop on price only. If someplace else offers an item cheaper, people will buy from some other places. People will buy from Gourmet, will buy from Suning, will buy from someone else if they offer it cheaper. So that was conventional wisdom. Now I'm going to have a straw poll here. Chinese consumers, you may not be Chinese, you may or may not be Chinese, but based on your understanding of Chinese consumers, are Chinese consumers buying based on price only? No. Based on price, you just buy the cheapest product. No, okay, right. Why not? 性价比, value for money. Okay, so what is value? what kinds of value would the typical Chinese consumer look for?
It's very much
Okay. Any examples, even for yourself?
You might pay very small money
Yes.
to buy something which you think is worth magnitude on the
Okay.
maybe
Okay, buy small money and buy.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So
you might pay high money for something you think is also valuable for that kind of
Sure.
commercial thing.
sure. Okay, maybe pay more if there's more value. We get more value, right? And there's a China Entrepreneur magazine, and their own explanation there means Best Buy of why they failed. China's demand for low prices without regard for service is a lame excuse. Why is it a lame excuse? Now, if Chinese consumers are really that price sensitive, why is it that the Apple stores in China has got the highest per square foot sale in the world? Why? You get cheaper prices in Hong Kong, so why is it that, or you get cheaper prices in other little small stores or even online? So why is it that when we buy Apple products, most consumers actually bought it in Apple stores, where it's more expensive? There must be some reason to that, right? If people are really that price sensitive, then a lot more people will buy online because it's a lot cheaper there. That's one power story. Second power story, when Best Buy comes into place into China, what they really want to do was to introduce the system whereby the employees, the sales staff, the assistants, were not employed by the manufacturers, they were employed by Best Buy. Whereas if you go to Gourmet, if you go to Suning, especially Jialefu, a lot of the sales assistants, the sales clerks at Daogou, they were actually employed by the manufacturers, and their job is to push the product to you and then make a commission out of that. So what Best Buy tried to do in China is to introduce a system where they want to give advice to the consumer on what is best for you rather than what is best for my commission. Right? So that was the concept. And guess what? The concept actually worked. Not for Best Buy, but for Gourmet and for Apple stores in China. Apple stores work the same idea. The sales assistants in Apple stores are not called sales assistants, they're called associates. They are there to help you make the right purchase that you want. So they are there to, to answer your questions. They are not paid any commissions, they are paid a fixed pay. Okay, that's Apple stores. They work in China. Gourmet, once Best Buy came to China and used this model, Gourmet actually followed suit. They also employed their own staff in addition to this. That's a mix. Their promoters are employed by the manufacturers, and then there are house employees employed by Gourmet to actually objectively help the consumers make a better buying decision. So that model in itself worked in China. People, when we talk about added value service, if you know a lot of the product that you want to buy, then as a consumer, you probably will be willing or more willing to take more risk and buy from sources that you are not really sure with, like online, because you know the product, you know how to deal with unexpected situations. Your risk level is higher. If you are not sure of the product, what you need is better service to get better advice on how you can buy or how you can make a better buying decision. So that's a main difference. So when people go to a store, instead of buying online, the main reason is, number one, I can get advice. Number two, if something's wrong with the product, that is a physical store that I can go to and lodge my complaint, get a refund, get an exchange, get my warranty fixed, whatever it is. These are two main reasons why people want to buy from the store versus online. So that level of service, Chinese consumers want that kind of service actually. And we see success stories from Apple stores, with success stories even from Gourmet as well. So it's not that. What really happened is that Best Buy partnered with the wrong partner. We're not saying that Jiangsu Wuxing is a bad partner, but if their strategy is to launch in a first-tier city like Shanghai, you will probably want to partner with someone who's already in Shanghai and not a chain store that is more well known in third and fourth tier cities, not Shanghai. So it chose the wrong partner. It chose the wrong location. It chose location that are really very expensive, and having a store that is probably the largest in the world in a place that is awfully expensive, your costs are too high. Number three, it's not a matter of price, it's a matter of selection. Best Buy offers very limited selection. So as a consumer, I go to that store, I may not even find the kind of product that I want. Okay, so those are three reasons why Best Buy lost out. And we can look at Groupon as well. And very briefly, 2011, Groupon entered China under JV with Tencent called Gaopeng. And in the same year, it's even faster. Within the same year, Groupon closed 13 of its Chinese locations and fired over 400 full-time staff. It's pretty bad. Okay, now this is serious mismanagement, and again, it's about not knowing how the Chinese market is actually operating. The partner Tencent, Tengxun, doesn't have just one. It's not an exclusive partnership. Tengxun has got a lot of other partnerships doing tuangou, doing group buying with other people. Gaopeng is just one of the many. And the margins of all the group buying is a lot lower in China than in North America. So Groupon is facing bad problems. Even in North America, the founder and CEO actually was forced to leave. Right, so CEO was dismissed in 2013 recently. MediaMarkt, very similar to Best Buy. 2010 opened stores in China. 2013, shutting down stores amid losses, expansion on hold, and same case as too high prices and too limited selection. It's not so much the prices per se, but you have limited selection. Consumers don't really want to buy from you because I couldn't find the kind of products that I want. Right? And of course, rentals cost too high. Lessons behind the failure. Some of the things we can learn. Number one, sheer arrogance. It's the same thing for eBay, unfortunately, back then, not now, back then, eBay. It's the same thing for Best Buy. Why? When eBay came to China in 2002, most of the managers were actually from eBay Hong Kong and eBay Taiwan, right? As far as the people I met, a lot of managers actually came from eBay Taiwan, Hong Kong at the beginning. The founder for each net, the management team at each net where they acquired were asked to leave. As in, I buy over a company, please go and sign an agreement that you will not go into competing business. Right. So that's the thing. So they actually changed the whole team. That's part of eBay. For Best Buy, basically they got a lot of, and Groupon as well, they've got a lot of expat managers. Nothing wrong with expat managers, but when you have too much of expat managers and not enough localized managers, not enough people who know the local market, then you have a kind of misalignment. That's one part. Two is that a lot of these companies, when it comes to China, they think that what worked in North America is going to work here as well. Not true, as I mentioned with eBay. In North America, it's an auction site. Here, it's an e-commerce site. And same thing, eBay did not only not work in China, it didn't work in Japan as well. Right? And a lot of chain stores could have worked well in the home country. When they want to relocate here, things didn't work out because buying behaviors are different. And just saying that Chinese consumers only want price is just giving a very lame excuse. It's that sheer arrogance. We think that because we had 30% of the global market, we are the king of the world in North America, so therefore the consumers here have to listen to us. One key thing about Apple is this. Apple, in a way, fell into the trap of arrogance in the early years. Think about this. iPod, before the iPhones, iPod entered China very late. As in officially entered China very late. Most of the iPods in the early years were actually Hong Kong parallel imports, right? 水货, right? This is what I thought. Apple didn't think China is going to be a big market. It didn't place priority. The iPhones came in China also very late because they wanted to negotiate the best deal for them, right? iPhones initially wanted to negotiate with China Mobile because China Mobile has got a number of phone subscribers, and when they couldn't get the split, the commissions they want, they decided to go with China Unicom. They were fortunate that it is a very hot selling product. It actually boosts sales for China Unicom. It actually boosts the number of subscribers for China Unicom in China, right? And China Telecom later on. So over the years, Apple come to realize that China is indeed their most important market. And now they're focusing a lot of things on the market, and right now we have some official complaints from the government against Apple. And what did Apple CEO do? Sorry, we'll be better. We are not perfect. Please give us a chance. Right? They're willing to be a little bit more humble. I mean, we're not saying that the Chinese government is right to say that. We're not going to say who's right, who's wrong. It's a matter of attitude. Are you willing to give concessions? Are you willing to give compromises? Are you willing to be flexible, operating in a difficult territory such as China? 2, ignorance. And it is precisely because China is a unique, sometimes difficult, sometimes what we call unpredictable environment. That's where you need to know a lot more about the ground. You cannot make assumptions. Right? You need to know what are the do's and don'ts, what are possible policy changes, what are your contingency plans. You cannot assume that the rules back home is going to be the same in China. You cannot even assume that the current rules in China is going to be the same for tomorrow in China. So this is China. You need to be constantly aware of what's happening. And because of that, you have the wrong assumptions. And here's the thing about assumptions. Without using very colorful language, the word assume, right? If you assume too much, you will make I won't say the word, out of you and me, right? So that's a kind of assume. Especially in China, you don't want to assume too much. It's better to find out more. It's better to counter check from different angles, from different sources, and make decisions. It's better also to sometimes reverse a decision if you found that decision has been made on the wrong assumption. Right? So that's 3, for hiring the wrong people, as mentioned. You may need to have a fair number of people who are either capable people from local population, or it can be expats if they really have strong either experience or knowledge or operations contributions in China. They know the place and are able to operate according to the landscape. Right? They are able to give sound advice, saying that China has got this new regulation. Right? Alipay did something that is below the books and below the kind of moral standard and changed around things. What are our options? We couldn't do the thing as the same as, say, Alipay. But maybe we can do something else. Maybe we can lobby against the Chinese government or have a JV with the Chinese bank, or whatever it is. So we need some of the people who knows how to operate in China. Partnering with wrong partner, as mentioned, if you are in a first-tier city, you want to partner with someone in the first-tier city. You don't want to partner with someone who is bigger in the third and fourth-tier city. If you want to partner with someone, you partner with someone who is more committed to helping you to succeed, rather than partner with someone who's got a lot of other partnerships that are going on. So this is some of the things that we probably can learn from all these lessons. Now, there is just one more story of a near failure. It's not Apple's. It's something successful right now, but with a twist. And it's got to do with my old hometown of Singapore. It's known as the China-Singapore Suzhou Industrial Park. now known only as Suzhou Industrial Park. The China Singapore has been omitted, and for a good reason. In 1994, this was started with the Suzhou government, the industrial park was started with having, the Suzhou government having a 35% stake. Now, just for some historical stories, the backstory was that the then Singapore Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew had a talk with Lan Qing, then Vice Premier in China, to talk about possibility to clone Singapore somewhere in China. Suzhou was chosen. So we started this venture. The Suzhou government had a 35% stake. And China being China, guess what the Suzhou government did? Suzhou government had a JV with Singapore, and the Suzhou government had a 35% stake in this JV. 35%, just to remind ourselves, is a minority stake. Now you have a minority stake in a product with a foreign partner. A typical Chinese business owner, what do you think they will do? Set up a parallel enterprise, of course. And here you go. In the same year, the Suzhou government started the Suzhou New District, which is wholly owned. Their own. So one is east of Suzhou town, or Suzhou city, one is west of Suzhou city. So we have, it's got something running in parallel. And not only that, by 1999, 5 years later, accumulated losses of US $90 million, losing money like crazy. So there were a lot of quarrels, and a lot of fights between Singapore and Suzhou over how the place should be managed, and it went on and on until this is what was suggested: Singapore to reduce its stake to 35%. In 1999, Lee Kuan Yew actually came to China, went to both places. Went to Suzhou and Wuxi, and there was a Wuxi New District. There was also a joint venture with Singapore, and he actually slammed and blasted Suzhou Industrial Park in Wuxi while he was giving a speech in Wuxi. It was 1999. So Suzhou government stance is that no, if you think you're losing your pants off, this is what you do: you reduce your stake to 35%. Right? And guess what? Some magic happened. Oops. Sorry, it's a bit low. By 2001, just 2 years later, we had an accumulated loss of $19 million in 1999. 2 years later, it's got a profit of $3.8 million just by switching the ownership. And that's it. Well, now, if you're in the shoes of Singapore, well, looking now in 2013, looking back in 2001, are you happy? Or are you sad? If you're in Singapore government, right, you had 65% in 1999. You're forced to reduce from 65 to 35 because you're losing money like crazy. And now, of course, Suzhou Industrial Park is doing great. It's making a lot of money. It's one of the benchmark role models in China. So if you're the Singapore government, if you put yourselves in the shoes of Singapore government, now looking back in 2001, will you be happy or will you be sad? Which is which? Oh, sorry.
Presumably the profits continue to go.
Yes. Okay, so you're happy.
In Singapore, sure, you lay back and enjoy it.
Yeah, lay back and enjoy it. It depends on how you want to look at things. Some people will feel very upset because I could have got more because I had 65%. Right? Now I'm only down to 35%. If I am still holding 65% now, today, that profit is almost double. Right? From 35 to 65. Now, but I only have 35. So some people may feel that it's kind of bitter feeling to it. And unfortunately, sometimes when working in China, that is precisely the emotion that you want to avoid. Because ultimately, you got to think about, it's not about how much stake you have in that. It's about how you want to work the system so that you end up making money. Yes, you lose your stake from 65 to 35. Right now, you still have 35. Right now, it's making tons and tons of money. Right? You don't have full control, but hey, you still have a stake in there. You're still making a lot of money. And the good news out of this whole thing is, the Suzhou government didn't let anyone down. It actually gained from strength to strength. It actually expanded the plant park, and now it's a lot of things were actually going to the blueprints, the original plans, whatever that is catered for green belts are catered for green belts, as in parks and green spaces are allocated. The lake, as it is, was spruced up and done nicely as planned, and even improvised to a better level. So that that partner, in a way, even though they are quite a bit of a manipulator, but in terms of execution, in terms of implement things, they were a great partner. They know how to run the industrial park. So it was a great partner, apart from they twist their arms a little bit. So by and large, it kind of had a happy ending, I would say. Right. So some of the things, just one final word that we usually use for our training, but in sales and leadership, and this is from Sun Tzu of War, Sun Tzu Bing Fa. And the original quote is that it's called 行千里而不劳者，行于无人之地. What it means in English is if you can march 1,000 miles and not feel tired, you will be undefeatable. And that's the case in China. I think the challenges that we face, the demands, the pressures that we face, whether you're a business owner, or you're a manager, or just a typical white-collar worker working in China, it's going to be mounting. And guess what? If you're able to persevere along the way, your competitors may have just given up. And if you are the last man standing, you win. So that's in a way what we can infer on operating as a business in China. You need that holding power, you need that perseverance, you need that flexibility, that adaptability to be prepared to adapt to unexpected changes, whether those changes are economic, social, or political. Right now, we'll like to have your questions. Great. Thank you, and we'll have questions. Yeah, the mics.
CJ, that was wonderful. Really good presentation. Let me ask the first question before handing it out there.
Right.
You seem to be suggesting that a majority stake is a bad thing for a foreign company, and that the safest way for a foreign company to operate here is with a minority stake, where the local partners have the responsibility for making sure that things work. Would you say, as a general principle, that's right?
No, exactly. Not in that context. Well, the thing about Singapore and Suzhou was that Singapore gave up the majority stake and let Suzhou have a majority stake. That applies to that particular situation. What I'm trying to infer is that sometimes you've got to be flexible. And being flexible is that sometimes you're going to be willing to give some concessions. And I'm not saying that you should give concessions and not asking anything back in return. So we can look into what we can give to gain more in other areas.
But the ones that failed, including eBay and Best Buy, were majority foreign owned.
Right.
Is there a lesson there? If eBay in 2002, 2003 had done a deal with Jack Ma, where would eBay be today?
Well, no, we gotta ask eBay. But I don't think it's a matter of they failing because of that majority stake. I'm sure that there are a lot of wholly owned foreign enterprises in China that are doing very well. They just few examples, just the sad stories that came out. I mean, one of the key examples, especially in the construction, building, property business, Capital Land, Singapore, wholly owned. Yinlord, Hong Kong owned, listed in Singapore. They're doing very well in China. They're wholly owned. And I'm sure there are a lot of brands out there. Even Apple in China is wholly owned, right? Foreign companies. So there are many wholly owned companies that are doing well in China. So it's not a matter of ownership. It's a matter of how you respond to local conditions that matter.
Questions from the audience?
For the questions? whether it's cultural misunderstanding. Oh, okay, great. The mic.
You talked about how the Suzhou government opened another industrial park, right?
Yes.
And you said that sometimes you need to be flexible and give concessions, but you need to ask for something back.
Yeah.
So is that park still open right now, or were they closed down as a part of?
Okay, S&D is still there, it's still in existence right now, but it's a pale shadow of SIP. Right, so all you need to do is just to take a train down to Suzhou and just go along those two places, and you find that SIP, Suzhou Industrial Park, it's in a way something like a miniature Singapore. If you've been to Singapore, you'll find that there's a lot of sights and scenes. And the town planning looks somehow like Singapore. If you go to S&D, Suzhou New District, you kind of feel that it's like a third-tier city. Yeah, so it's still in existence. It's just that the Suzhou government has found that this SIP has got greater potential. And now they've got a greater majority, 65%, they can make more money. They put more of their resources in SIP. In fact, they dump all the resources in SIP.
So it's kind of like an implicit agreement, right?
Yeah. Well, in a way, it's not so much an agreement, it's more like a motivation. Because I stand to make more money now in SIP than in S&D if I'm the Suzhou government. So I'll place all my bets in SIP. It's more like self-interest motivation.
Thank you.
One question, CJ,
Yes.
that I had related.
One question I had related to the online payment situation.
Yes.
A lot of China is controlled by what I call the party industrial complex. That is the whole state enterprise, everything, right? But I noticed that amongst the online payment players, I didn't see any obvious state player. There wasn't an ICBC owned.
You have UnionPay.
UnionPay is state-owned.
UnionPay is state-owned.
But the others, the UnionPay has only 11% of that.
Yes,
of that
yes.
pie.
There is 99 Bill, which is private as well. There's someone else. So they're all more or less private.
So why did the party industrial complex decide to bow out and not try to control that part of a booming market?
Well, let me go to the slide.
They don't usually just give up
I know.
profitable opportunities.
Okay. Right. UnionPay is 11.5, so it's number 3. Oh, Tencent is number 2, right? And then 99 Bill.
But that's also private.
It's also private, yes. I don't have a clear answer to that, but what we can see is from clues. Like what was mentioned, China government changes the rules such that you cannot be a private bank or something like that. So they actually make it difficult for people like Alipay and Tencent. Right? Tencent, if you recall a few years ago, if you were to play online gaming, you can actually buy tokens or credits to buy gaming resources. And that part was cut down a lot because in a way it becomes a de facto currency. Right? So that sort of thing, I would say that this kind of the industry here is more or less market driven, right? And when it's market driven, the private enterprises are quicker than a state-owned. When it's government driven, like UnionPay is one of the largest, I would say even greatest, what we call ATM facilitators in the world. You can use your normal Indian bank card and withdraw cash in a lot of ATMs in more than 100 countries around the world with very low processing fee. So their strength is to talk to the central banks around the world and get an agreement and then roll out. But the strength is they're less flexible as the private players here. Yeah.
We have time for one more question, I think. Please.
Yes. From our sponsor, Manchester not Manchester United, Manchester Business School.
Here I will not do the commercial advertisement because you all know Manchester Business School is the best.
Yes, of course.
But here I want to say something to add to CJ's comments on the former question about why the government gave up the profitable industry to private. I come from the PR and communication functions. In the past, I worked in Carrefour, Microsoft, Decathlon, and some European milk powder company like First and Campina. I have the experience of like partnership or private or foreign. One of the key important factors, as you CJ said, is you have to respond to the local situation, which include not only the policy but also the connection with the government. I'm not talking about bribing, but you all know, you should know, there's some forces behind Tencent. The creator, is from the military background. So kind of connections with the high officials that they are, first is their connection. Second, you are sure that they will not do something against you. That creates some trust. So some of the most tycoons of the private sectors in China, in fact, they have some connections. But talking about the partnership in the past, Carrefour in China have different partners in different cities. They choose the strongest state-owned enterprise to partner.
Yeah.
That way they can seek support from the local government. For example, in Shanghai, they seek partner from Lianhua. It's a 55 to 45% dividend. But the Lianhua will not participate in the management. They only just sit there and earn the money. But they provide support in terms of license, new store opening, support, something like that. So in fact, you have to be, first, as CJ said, you have to be flexible, and you have to be wise to choose your partner. There's not a one solution to all the problems.
Yeah. Thank you. And just to add to that, the same also applies to KFC versus McDonald's in China. KFC in China, I mean, we are now avoiding chicken in China and Shanghai, but KFC is one of few places in China. KFC China is one of few places in the world that KFC actually did a lot better than McDonald's. Right? It's an anomaly, and a lot of things has to do with the kind of partnering. They partner with someone from the government, and that partner actually helped them to secure in the initial stages to secure the best locations. So they're able to actually open up a lot more stores in the initial stage, same as Carrefour. However, one thing to think about also is you got to think about what is the phase in the timeline. 20 years ago, you probably need to have a strong partner that is flexible with you as well, and also supportive with you. So that's 20 years ago. You need probably have that kind of government backing partner to help you. 20 years later, today, that may not be as crucial. So we have seen Apple doing very well, even though the partner with China Unicom, but more or less Apple is doing fine. We also tend to see a lot more different brands that are doing well. Even Alibaba. Alibaba has got no backgrounds of any sort. It's got investors from SoftBank and so on, but it's got no government relationship. So you see foreign wholly owned companies and private companies playing in a different field today. So we have to see things not only from a China point of view, not only from a regional point of view, but also from a timeline point of view. 此一时彼一时. Times have changed, and we probably will need to be sensitive to what are the changes. Thank you for that.
Wonderful. CJ, thank you very much for these incredibly insightful thoughts on China, doing business in China. I'd like you, if you'd like to join me in thanking CJ.
Thank you. And if you want a copy of the slides, send me an email and I'll send it over to you.
I'd also like to thank the Manchester Business School again for their sponsorship of this event. And I'd like to thank you all for coming. We'll be continuing with the breakfast and with networking outside until about 10:30. So don't race away unless you've got profitable business to be done. And we look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.